What's up? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another live stream video. Before we get started, make sure that you pay your bar tabs, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you like this video. And just a reminder, for those of you who can't read, right down here at the bottom of the screen, we are at 10,000 subscribers giving away 10,000 KASPA to one lucky individual. Make sure you subscribe. You'll be entered in to win. So, I see the comment, and I think, also I apologize about whatever this white stuff is here. There's some light getting in onto my green screen, and I can't get it off, so you get to see some cool little, white things moving around in the background. Yeah, I see the comment here from you, Stone. And where is it? And I think that during that intro video, I moved my chair that I'm sitting in, and I think it squeaked. That's probably what you heard on the microphone. Unless it was somebody else out there. Make sure you admit to it. So, how's everyone feeling today? What are you guys drinking? Markets, I think they're up a little bit today, at least. Let me see here. Yeah, everything's in a little bit green today, which is crazy because usually when I stream on Fridays, the market is absolutely in shambles and we're putting in major red candles to the downside. So maybe this is a sign, guys. Maybe this is a sign. That things are turning around where I can actually stream on a green candle day. I thought it was comic relief. Yeah, maybe I should. Let me know in the comments, you guys, if I should incorporate sound effects into the stream, because I know some people do that. Originally Crypto Galaxy. Would it make things more fun? Is that already played out? Is that a stupid idea? Let me know in the comments. So, title of today's video is... What is the title of today's video? Don't make this one major mistake with KASPA. And that is clickbait, because the mistake I'm going to talk about is probably never going to happen with KASPA. And I'll tell you why. From both ends. Why can I not get my internet up? Here we go. Okay. We're going to come back to that in a second, but I want to look at KASPA. Because as you guys can see in the last 24 hours here, man, nothing's working for me today. KASPA is actually up 3.17% today. And basically we're going to the moon at that price. So, I think this might be the turnaround point for us to finally get some green candles. But what I want to talk about today, first of all, actually, before we get into that, did you guys see that Trump pardoned CZ from Binance? I thought that was crazy. I know it was money laundering through Binance. It's the reason why he was convicted in the first place. I don't know if this is good or bad macroly. I don't care either way, obviously. But I feel like for crypto, this is kind of bullish in a way because it just shows that, the president of the United States is, say what you want about Binance, say what you want about CZ, say what you want about Donald Trump, say what you want about any of that. But the fact that the president of the United States and CZ are, kind of shaking hands, I would imagine there's probably something good market-wise in the coming future here. That's just the way I kind of see it. I don't care about all the background stuff. But I thought that was interesting. I'm sure you guys probably already saw that. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about today is Kadena. And what happened to Kadena, was it yesterday or the day before? Because the project completely rug pulled and stopped its business operations and is no longer a crypto project. And for those of you guys who don't remember, let's take a look at Kadena here. For those of you guys who don't remember, Kadena was like, last cycle was like a pretty popular proof of work crypto, and it was really profitable to mine. And so everybody jumped into the mining aspect of Kadena last year, and it did pretty well. And so if we look at this, it's kind of flatline now, right? It had its spike last cycle, and it's kind of flatline. Market cap is, down from, well, let's just say price is down from $22 down to, 5 cents, which is a massive decrease in price. I mean, even back over here before it launched into this bull cycle here, it's basically made new lows. If my mouse will click on that. Yeah, so 30 cents, it went into 16, 15 cents, 14 cents, but now it's sitting at 5 cents. It's completely dead. I would imagine before they announced that they were, halting and stopping all business operations, they sold all their tokens before that. Actually, I would say the majority of their tokens were probably sold right up here at the $22, because that's the prime example of a team, right, and VCs dumping on retail. Now, I want to talk about this because it's a proof of work project, and like I said, it was very popular to mine last cycle, and you still had a bunch of people, right, community, that was telling you that Kadena is the end-all be-all in crypto. And anybody who has the smallest brain in their skull could tell you that this project was not going to make it. I could see it from, 5 miles away that this project was never going to come back. And this is before they announced that they're, halting all business operations and closing shop, okay? There's always signs that things are going to happen, okay? And when you look at Kadena, it has pre-sale and pre-mine coins, okay? It got listed on exchanges because it gave exchanges tokens, and it was profitable to mine last cycle, and that's the only reason people were into it, okay? But when you look at the underlying, I guess, behind the scenes technical stuff, you're going to see major flaws and major red flags. Okay? Now, I don't know why I cannot get... Let's just go to coin rank here. Because, actually, let's go here. Because that'll give me all of the background stuff that I'm looking for. To prove to you guys that this project had red flags from day one. Now bear with me 2 seconds here. Because we're going to circle this back around to KASPA at the end, because a lot of people are going to ask, and I think a lot of people already wonder, could this happen to KASPA? And that is a good question. It's a very good question, and we need to actually talk about that. So, where are the token allocations here? So it said the latest ICO was November 4th, 2019 to November 22nd, 2019. So think about that. They haven't had any sort of investor money since 2019. 2019. So that's even before last bull run. That was probably around the time they were launched. Don't quote me on that because I haven't looked at when it was launched. But nonetheless, they raised $12 million, $10 million here in 2 separate ICOs. Okay? So that is money that was given, right? Well, bigger entities that were buying at a lower price or given tokens. And therefore, they have no incentive to hold past a certain point, right? They're just in it to make money. Pretty much all the coins are in circulation, but it doesn't matter anymore because it's no longer a project. But the main thing I want to state here is that Kadena is it's a business, right? It's a company. And companies need revenue in order to stay in business. Okay? And they blamed this shutdown that they just had on market conditions not being suitable for, making money. And if you can't make money, right, and at least hold out for another few months probably, then you must be doing really bad. Because even Kadena probably would have gotten some sort of lower high, right? There's no way it was going back to $22, but from last cycle, it probably, money would have flown into it to some extent, right? Even dead projects, money flows into them. For whatever reason, I don't know. And so, them bowing out right before the parabolic phase of the cycle tells you something anyway. Now, in 2023, I think it was, and don't quote me on this because I cannot find the linkable data anymore, and maybe it wasn't this project, but I thought it was. I think it was. The founder of Kadena started another project. They essentially left Kadena back in 2023. Okay? And started another project, and I think it was Area, which is a layer 1 blockchain that had a little bit of hype back then because a lot of people were saying, well, Kadena was very successful last bull cycle, so why, if they're going to leave that project and start this project, why don't I invest in this project thinking it's going to do the same amount of X's as Kadena did last cycle? And I believe it was Area, even though I can't find the linking between the founders now. even if it wasn't area, it was another project. But as you can see, even this project, they have rebranded already. They were the Arion network, and now they are the Arium network. Switched from BSC to the Arion chain, so they switched to their own chain. But even migrating and changing your name after being in business for a year or a year and a half is a red flag in its own, right? So you've got major red flags all over the place with the founders, and plus I think they were originally from JP Morgan or something, which is a bank that nobody should trust to begin with. And so, already that's a red flag. But there's just red flag after red flag after red flag. And this is what happens when you're a company, okay? You need a revenue stream in order to stay in business. Most crypto projects are companies. They need a revenue stream to stay in business. That's why it is very, very, very dangerous to buy in to these projects in their second cycle, because most of them do not make it, okay? Buying Kadena last cycle would have been a good idea. It's their first cycle. That's when the hype is at its peak. That's when there's revenue coming in. This cycle, nobody cares about them because there's new shiny balls bouncing around over here. And nobody cares about Kadena anymore. Okay? That's going to be the same scenario with a lot of crypto projects next cycle. So whatever the popular projects are this cycle may not carry over to next cycle, which is why we preach do not hold your bags and do not round trip them. Now, circling back around to KASPA. KASPA is a currency. It is not a company, okay? It started out with no money, and it still has no money. The team mined a little bit of KASPA. I think they kept it under 1% of the total supply. So they have some money. But what I'm trying to get at here is they don't need a revenue stream to stay in business. The blockchain is out there, right? They're not doing much marketing, if any at all, anyways, right? They're not giving anybody tokens. They're not doing any of that stuff. It's out there, and it's a ground roots project that people are buying into. The community's growing naturally, organically, just like Bitcoin did. And therefore, they do not need a massive revenue stream in order to keep things moving and keep things going, because they didn't have one from the beginning. They launched the blockchain, or we'll call it a chain. We know it's a DAG, though. They launched it, and then the community has grown and taken over. And that is exactly what Bitcoin did, right? And that's what we're hoping, right? The adoption continues with KASPA. And we can move into the future and be a multi-cycle project that lives in the top 5 cryptocurrencies for the foreseeable future, right, after this cycle. Now, that being said, I wouldn't be doing my part, right, if I didn't warn everybody that there is a possibility, right? We cannot predict the future. None of us can. We can look out and try and visualize what the future is going to be based on certain things, but we cannot predict the future. We don't actually know what's going to happen, which is why I always tell everybody to, at bare minimum, just sell some KASPA and get your initials back, right? So that if something, God forbid, does happen, you're not out money, you didn't lose money, okay? What I'm going to be doing is selling a portion of my holdings and keeping a portion of my holdings because I believe in it. It's the only project besides Bitcoin that I'm doing that with. But I've been around long enough and I've seen projects go under. Every single cycle it happens. Most projects don't come back the next cycle. Even though I think KASPA is going to come back, it is going to make a comeback. It is going to plant itself in the top 5 cryptos on CoinMarketCap. Possibly next cycle. There's still a little part of me that has seen this happen with a lot of cryptos in the past where they just don't come back. And I don't want to risk being in that group of people anymore moving forward, which is why I will be selling all of every other project I own and a percentage of my Bitcoin and my KASPA. Okay? In my opinion, that's just the smart thing to do, unless you just don't care, right? You don't need the money. You don't want the money. You just want to invest and hold it. You're doing well outside of crypto. And you want to just hold your whole bag back down through the bear market and back around. There's nothing wrong with that. I just caution everybody. Let's just put it this way. It never hurts to take some profits, okay? Even if it's a project that you were 100% convicted in, right? Bitcoin maxis take profits at the top of markets. That's not a bad thing. That's not losing conviction. That's just wanting some fiat money so that you can go out and buy a house, or you can go out and do some fun stuff, go on vacation, buy a car, do whatever you need to do, right, for you and your family. It's not a bad thing to take profits, even if it's something you're 100% convicted in. Bitcoin maxis do the same thing, okay? KASPA maxis are going to do the same thing. A lot of those people with the big wallets are going to take profits at the top of the market, okay? Some people won't, but a lot of people will. And for myself, I want to position myself to make sure that if God forbid anything happens, I'm okay, right? I'll have my long-term bag that I'm not touching and that I will add to next cycle, but I will be selling some because I want to go buy some stuff out in the real world. So that's the moral of the story. Don't hold company cryptos that are companies round trip into the next cycle, because majority of them will not make it. Case in point, right behind me, Kadena. And it's a proof of work, so everybody thinks it's like related to, like KASPA could potentially have the same issues. And the chances of it are a lot more slim, because KASPA is not a company. They don't have a team necessarily. Like Jonathan and Michael Sutton could walk away, and KASPA would still be there, and it would be pumping out 10 blocks a second without them in the background. You would need some devs potentially at some point to maybe do some upgrades or whatever it might be. Maybe some layer 2 devs, that worked on top. But KASPA would still function just like Bitcoin functions without a known founder. If Jonathan walked away, it would not affect KASPA at all. In fact, he plans to walk away at some point, he said. And I think that actually would make, I think that would actually be a good thing for KASPA. Because then there's no one to point fingers at, right? It's just the fastest blockchain or block DAG out there, and it works flawlessly, and you don't need somebody in the background, telling you that everything's going to be okay. You can see it in the metrics. So, also, don't buy this coin either. Arium. Because I think that this is the same team. I think. I don't know why I can't connect the dots anymore, but I connected them at one point because I used to own Area because of that. And now, I don't know, maybe this project will be successful this year. Who knows? But I would stay away from it. Not that any of you guys were, had this on your to-buy list, I would imagine. Most of you probably haven't even heard of it. Which is a good thing. Johnny says the bull cycle is not over. I agree. I actually, counter to popular demand now. I still think it's going to top this year in Q4. I could be proven wrong, and I'm open-minded about it going, into next year for sure. But Uncle Tony's drinking water. He's got a 5K race in the morning. Wow. Good for you. The what ups, green tea, cheers Caspians. I usually blame the dog. I am drinking a Spindrift today. The Spindrift is one of my favorite drinks, and the grapefruit flavor, oh man, you guys haven't tried that. If you like sparkling, it's like a sparkling water, but it's like a heavier, deeper, more real flavor than most sparkling waters. It's so good, in my opinion. As soon as the market turns back around and we start flying, then the whiskey will be broken back out for these streams. But right now, I guess you could drink whiskey when you're depressed too. But it's more fun to drink when you're, when things are going good, and we've got major green candles going. Feeling hot and bothered. I'm excited for a positive couple of months. KASPA looks forgotten on PA. I don't know what PA means. But I remember what it's like and looks like it finished a bottom wave 2 on the monthly. Yeah. So the thing is, remember, let's just say, even if KASPA wasn't KASPA, okay? Let's just say it was a company and it was just your run-of-the-mill copy and paste layer 1 crypto, okay? It's still in its first cycle. And so the chances of it not running during the parabolic phase in its first cycle is extremely slim. So I would still have faith either way. But knowing what I know, right, and what KASPA actually is, I have even more conviction, obviously, and then even more conviction of it sticking around past this cycle. And I know it's hard to understand for a lot of people who haven't been around in the market a long time. Every crypto goes through a phase where it just sits sideways, and it never, ever, ever seems like it's going to move, right? As soon as a cryptocurrency gets the label stablecoin, that's usually about the time that it's bottoming, okay? Cardano had that last cycle. It didn't move at all. It was one of the last cryptos to move, but it went parabolic and it did a lot of X's Okay? Everybody was calling it a stablecoin last cycle, including myself. It was funny. It was joking around. I owned Cardano last cycle. And then guess what? As soon as enough people called it a stablecoin and it had its time to sit and do nothing for a while and move sideways, where people thought it was dead and all the paper hands have sold, it went on a major rally. And I fully expect KASPA to do the same thing. It's just a matter of you can stick around long enough. Some people can, some people can't. But that's the reason why only 1% win in this market. Right? If you're not day trading, which... if you're a good day trader, you can make money all the time. But if you're a buy and hold investor for like a full cycle, and your winners, right, that you're holding for the whole cycle, stop moving for a while, that's perfectly normal. Everything goes in rotation. And mark my words, you can come back at me as soon as we get the parabolic top, which I think is going to be this year. I still believe that. If not, it'll be sometime next year, probably. Just remember, I told you, it will run at some point. And most of you guys know that already. You're the OGs that are here, the diehards that have been here and are still here and aren't going anywhere. But there's a lot of people that probably have jumped ship already. It's unfortunate because they're going to miss the best part, very short best part of the market. But that's on them for not being able to hold. Claude says, depends on the sounds. I'm assuming for the sound effects. Just be original, no sound effects. Yeah, looks like nobody wants sound effects, so we're not going to do sound effects. CG is a flip-flopper. He was a KASPA maxi. Now he doesn't want to talk about it. Yeah, I saw his... I didn't watch his video. I don't really watch him. But I saw his... what is it called? The cover photo for his video today. It was like the top 10 coins to become... or to make millions. Which is basically his title every single video. And KASPA was not listed on there. At least in the photos. It was all meme coins. Which, I mean, you can make money off of meme coins, obviously. But you can also lose a lot, so... Samuel Adams, Jacko Pumpkin Ale. Interesting. It's Halloween. Pumpkin season. Fall. I really don't like anything pumpkin flavored. My fiance loves that stuff. And I just want to throw up every time. You go to the grocery store and everything, like every product has a pumpkin flavor now for this season. And she's walking down the aisle wanting to pick up everything, and I don't want anything to do with that. Never tried a pumpkin ale beer, though. I'd be willing to try it. I'm ready for no taxes on crypto, like Trump said. Yeah, we'll see if that actually happens. I don't know. Maybe it's already like voted through. I don't know. Or maybe he, just like every other politician, is going to lie to us. Good evening, Beebs. KASPA Queen is in the house. Happy Friday. Yeah, there was a lot of VCs involved with Kadena as well. There was, yes. That project ran like crazy last year. I mean, think about that. 13 cents or 14 cents to $22. That is a massive run up. That's basically like KASPA running to $20 this cycle. That's insane from where we're at right now. Cadena wasn't that scalable. Yeah, all of the Cadena community would always tell you it was the end-all be-all for crypto. And, I mean, like I said, you could see the red flags from 5 miles away. And it wasn't just one red flag, it was multiple. When the team leaves to start another layer 1 blockchain, that should be enough of a red flag as it is, right? That means they pump and dumped, right? They launched last cycle, went up through 2021 from 13 cents to 22 cents. They sold their bags, and then immediately in 2022 or 2023, after they sold all of their coins, the team, they started a new layer 1 blockchain, which tells you right there they don't care about Cadena anymore, right? Nobody's working on it. So it's been dead for a long time, if you ask me. Yeah, and I don't know how scalable it actually was. I never looked into it, but I would imagine... I don't know. Layer 1's, proof of work cryptos have never, ever been able to scale like crazy until KASPA came around. So I would imagine Cadena wasn't like crazy scalable, like you said. Didn't they not own their blockchain? I don't know. I know that they launched a token, a BNB token, right before they went native onto their own chain. I don't know if they owned their own chain or not, though, when it was all said and done. Not that it even matters anymore. Don't kid yourself. They took that money and ran. That's a fact. That's 100% fact. Bitcoin closed over 111K. Yes, it did, which is actually great news, obviously. What we don't want to see is it go below the 50-week, right? And have weekly closes below the 50-week. The 50 weeks obviously moving up as we go, but it was around like 101 or 102,000. So what we don't want to do is, start playing with those levels on weekly closes. So Bitcoin moving back up to 111K is solid. Because Bitcoin, in order for us to get an alt season, Bitcoin's got to lead the way. So we need Bitcoin to make new all-time highs. So we all need to cheer Bitcoin on. And then Ethereum will run next. And then everything will trickle. Ethereum's got to convincingly make new all-time highs as well. But Bitcoin will lead the way, so. They come and they go. I have some memes I need to dump. Yeah. So there's a lot of projects that even in the bear market will have massive 50x to 100x pumps, and then on an exchange listing or something like that, and then you don't hear anything from them again after that because I think the team just sold their tokens and ran. I can't even tell you, there was countless. I could need both of my hands to count the ones that I remember. There's probably even more that I don't remember from 2022 and 2023. 2023 was actually, if you were positioned right, you could have made a hell of a lot of money if you got in and then sold certain projects. 2023, it was kind of like 2019, where the altcoins had like a pretty solid run up, and then fizzled out for another year or two before the real parabolic run. But yeah, projects come and go, and they always will. Yeah, this I think is definitely true, because I think Binance and was it the Trump administration that invested into Binance, or the other way around? I can't remember the exact layers of it, but yeah, they were intertwined with the WLFI. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was some money that was exchanging hands in the process. Not buying shit in this market. I made more last bull run. Well, we haven't we haven't really gotten to the real, I guess what you could say, altcoin season. The reason Bitcoin's done very well this cycle, it's the altcoins that just haven't ran yet. And I still think, until I'm proven wrong, I still think this cycle is going to follow the 2017 model, which is altcoins pumping, mid-November and through December, and then some of them into January. But it was quick, it was violent, and then it was over. Whereas last cycle, altcoins started running in 2020 because of, it was after the COVID scenario, because interest rates, the unprecedented, whatever you want to call that, black swan, interest rates dropped to zero and they flooded the market with liquidity. And so altcoins ran, they started a little earlier last cycle because of that, which is why we're waiting for interest rates to drop to a certain point and QE to start. But yeah, everybody who was in last cycle made more money last cycle as of right now, because we haven't had alt season yet this cycle. So clearly, if you were in alt season last cycle, you made a hell of a lot more money than you've made so far this cycle. By the end of this cycle, it might even itself out. Stone I will be taking profits. Good. I recommend, like I said, you don't have to listen to me. You can round trip, anything you want back through the bear market. It's just not a good feeling, because you don't know if that project's coming back, and you're gonna have to wait 4 more years to even see gains from that project again if it does come back. So, I'm assuming you're talking about KASPA though, which I still think is a good idea to take some profits, because there's a saying, you never go broke taking profits, and you keep a little bit and ride it through, and if KASPA becomes what we think it's going to be, then you're still solid, right? You still got your very low buy-in with that bag that you're holding. Just like back in the early Bitcoin days, like if you would have, nobody knew obviously what Bitcoin was going to be, but if you would have, bought a ton of Bitcoin in like 2013, whatever, pick a year, 2010, and you would have sold, let's say you sold 80% of your Bitcoin back then, but you kept 20%, and you kept adding to that 20% that you're keeping every single year, right? Then you would still have a hell of a lot of Bitcoin, plus you would have reaped a ton of profit. right? That you could go out and have fun and spend during that time. In my opinion, that's best of both worlds. Do you think the same could happen to a lithium? Yeah, I do think the same could happen. I don't know if it will. I also would probably, if you're investing in a lithium this cycle, you could potentially hold it through, alt season, but I wouldn't hold it through the bear market if I was you. That's just my 2 cents. Yeah, I'm still in that camp. I believe we can top this year. Yeah, it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to because obviously, just look at the market, right? We've been suffering through this for months upon months and, years technically, just to get this golden alt season that looks like it's never going to come, right? It's out in the distance. It's like a fairy tale that you can see out in the distance, but you can never reach. But I full-heartedly agree, or I full-heartedly expect that we're gonna see an alt season at some point, even if it does mean that the cycle's extended. But my base case still is that we're gonna see something at the end of this year. And it may not even be till December, who knows? Maybe late November. I know nobody wants to hear that because we've been waiting already, and we thought alt season was probably, at least stair-stepping up by now, like it did last cycle, but it's not the case. Because in 2017, we just got one top, right? In 2021, we got 2 tops. And so we had a run-up, and then we had a massive pullback in the summer, and then we topped again in November, right? And in 2017, we just didn't see that first. You got everything in that second run-up, right? Like you did in 2021. It's just one run-up instead of 2. So that's why last cycle felt like it was longer and better, is because you got a run-up in April or May, but then everything went all the way back down, right, to basically where it was before that run-up, and then it double-topped and went up again. So it just seemed longer with a pullback in the summer, whereas this, the pullback has been the whole year, basically. And in my opinion, we should see that run-up that we want later this year. And if not, there's no nothing wrong with being wrong, right? Because Q4 comes before next year. So if you're expecting things to end in Q4, then you're going to know, whether they end in Q4 or not. If we don't see any sort of movement, then my stance will change. But I just look at it like, why move away from, history of topping around November? That's for Bitcoin, right? Altcoins will run a little longer, typically. Why move away from that and just blanketly say 100% that it's going to be extended cycle? Nobody knows except for the market makers and the people in power. There's nothing wrong with thinking that it's going to end in Q4, and if it doesn't, then you wait a little longer, right? Wow, this is actually breaking news, guys. Stone Roastery drinks coffee. He drinks his own coffee too, I think. Negative Man, I strongly suggest that people check out Wolfie's Bar in London and the Wolfie token as well as the Wolfpack NFT project. Web3 meets actually real world application. Yeah, I like Wolfie. I don't own any of the token or the NFTs. And I don't live anywhere close to London, or I'd probably visit that place. If I'm ever out there, I'll definitely go and visit. Also, they seem like good people. One of my favorite IPAs is from the Maine Beer Company, and it's called Lunch. Interesting. Beer for lunch. Wolfie's Bar in London is having a KASPA anniversary party. Jonathan Sompolinski will be in attendance. They are doing amazing things in partnership with Eager Labs and Crumpet Media, Decentralized Media. I am actually stoked for Eager Labs because that's where the KII and some of the big people are going to be launching their projects on top of. So I'm actually pretty excited for them. Yeah, if any of you guys can make it, that would be pretty cool to be able to be in attendance at the bar with Jonathan at Wolfie's. That would be fun. If you don't mind me asking, what would be your bearish price for price prediction for KASPA? It's hard to say. I still think KASPA can do a 10x, and it could do more. It depends on what kind of alt season we get. Because if we get a massive alt season, then I think it could do more than a 10x from here. But a 10x from here is like 50 cents. And so the fact that we have come back down again kind of limits my price prediction from where it was before. Because in order to get to $1 now, you're going to have to go 20x. And in order to get to $3, you're going to have to do like a 60x. And I don't know if we're going to be doing a 60x this cycle. Right? When we were at like between 10 and 14 cents, that's a different story. But now that we're back down at 5, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I would originally said that 50 cents would have been extremely bearish, and now I'm saying that that's kind of, roughly where I could see it if we just have a mediocre alt season. Which is why price predictions are really hard, and they can change because you just never know what's going to happen in the meantime. If you're given a price prediction from the price point of 20 cents when it was at its all-time high, yeah, you think $3 is, pretty possible, maybe, right? At least $1. And now that we're back at 5 cents, in order to get up to $3, you're going to have to pull out some crazy X's out of your hat. And it's possible, I've seen some things do some crazy X's. I mean, look at Cadena last cycle we just talked about. I keep bringing it up because we talked about it earlier. But 14 cents to $20 is absolutely insane. So like if we see something like that, then yeah, KASPA can go to $3. But again, I don't think $3 is very reasonable anymore. Yeah, this is what makes me wonder, because you're right. Powell will be out, and I think it was May, wasn't it, or March? Anyways, it doesn't matter. Early next year, we could see a huge spike after that. But what if that is the top? Like, interest rates have been lowered. Or what if that is, what if we're halfway through a bear market at that point, right? We get enough good news, interest rate cuts, and just the sentiment, right, of things getting easier, and we do get somewhat of a blow off top by the end of this year. What if we're in a bear market next year, right? We drop into a recession. Powell's out. New guy comes in. And that is what's going to set us up for a crazy next cycle. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard because we've been struggling for so long that I feel like any sort of relief is going to, make us go parabolic. But that being said, remember, the market makers control all of this with a metaphorical push of a button. And so it's whatever they want, right? We just have to, there will be narratives assigned, but we just have to, like I always say, swim with the whales. We sell when they sell and we buy when they buy, as best we can, right? We just sit in limbo until they give us the signs to do what we need to do. Yeah, Mila is right, because trust me, there is no fun riding through the bear market. I've done it, would not recommend it to anyone. That is 100% facts. It is not fun. And it's better, in my opinion, especially with altcoins in general, right? You want to take your profits and then set yourself up with a lot more money in stable coins to invest next cycle, right? If you just continue to hold your bags, if you've got good income, yeah, you can just keep adding. But like I said, a lot of those altcoins aren't going to come back anyway. So bear markets are brutal. Especially if you're somebody who doesn't make a lot of money or doesn't have a lot of money, and this is like your way of moving up a little bit, right? And getting some potential life-changing money. Take the profits and then reinvest next cycle, and then multiple, X, whatever amount of money that is, right? And just keep doing that over and over again. But in the meantime, you're going to have some spending money as well. So Mila is 100% correct on that. You got to take profits. How much more likely is a 60-cent top versus a $1? I have no idea. I have no idea. I would say now that we're down at 5 cents, it's probably more likely than when we were at 14 cents. Because at 14 cents, you're looking at just over, a 2 point something X in order to get to, no, it would be a 4X to get to 60 cents, right? Yeah, roughly. Whereas now it's just a 4x to get to back to our previous all-time high at 20 cents. So, again, it's all going to depend, like I said, if we get like some crazy violent alt season, which it's typically that's how it happens, right? And you're going to have some coins do 100x, you're going to have some coins do a 10x, you're going to have some coins do a 3 to 5x. We just don't know which one's going to do what. Lower market caps usually do more X's, but it's riskier because some of those coins may not be found, right? And you may not make any money off of them. But I think at this point, I know nobody wants to hear this, and it's probably going to piss some people off, but I'd be happy at a 50, 60 cent KASPA for the cycle based on what we've been through. I still think it could do more. I'm just saying I would be happy at that price. No, I don't think KASPA is going to be another KDA. If you weren't here at the beginning of the video, go back and watch. KDA was a company and needs revenue in order to stay in business, and clearly they ran out. Whereas KASPA is a currency, just like Bitcoin, so it doesn't need revenue in order to stay in business. It's going to need adoption, right? We're going to need to continue to build adoption, but in order for they don't spend any money on marketing or anything for that matter, right? So they don't need money to keep a business open. It's just a currency to be used from peer to peer. So you shouldn't have that issue with KASPA. It's set up differently, organically from ground roots grown. Yeah, when Cowan keeps saying to always hold the king till the last month of the cycle, that wasn't true last cycle. Sol and Ada and others banged out a 10x in early 2021. Yeah, so the difference there is, remember, we double topped. So this is how I equate it. We had a good run in the early year, right? But then we came all the way back, roughly all the way back down in the summer, and then just double topped again, right? So it did a 10x. It lost. I don't know how many X's it lost, and then roughly came back up to the same spot again, okay? And some coins actually topped in early and didn't make it to the second half. So you either got a total, of a 20x or something like that, a 10x here, back down, and then another 10x, or you got your big pump in the first half of the year, and then over the summer, we came back down, and then some altcoins didn't come back up the second half of the year. So it was longer, but not all altcoins were performing the whole entire time. And so it seemed in our minds that the cycle, went on for a full year, when in actuality, a lot of altcoins did not pump for both of the double tops. And if they did, it was almost coming back to the same level on the second top. So you really didn't make any more money unless you sold at the first top, bought back in middle of summer when it dipped, and then ran it back up again, right? And sold at the second top. You could have made a lot of money. There was a lot of nuances that were different from the 2017 cycle, which is why it seemed so different and more drawn out. Whereas I think this cycle, like I'll say it again, is going to play out like the 2017 cycle, where we don't see a full year. Obviously, we haven't seen that already, of alts running, stair-stepping up, where we just get one, violent top at the end of the year. And so it seems like alts are never going to run, but I think we get, it's less drawn out, but we still get the same results just in one top in a shorter amount of time. I guess hopefully that is explained well enough for you guys to understand. Speaking, this is a good question because I still have some NFTs from last cycle. In fact, you just reminded me that I have NFTs. I don't know that they're going to come back, to be honest with you. I've thought about this a lot, and I don't think in a so if we get this very, short, 2-month spike, right, where it's violent, but we get that parabolic top in 2 months, I don't think NFTs have enough time to come back because people aren't going to be focused on that. They're going to be focused on their coins that they've been holding the whole time. And I think last cycle NFTs were successful because we had a longer drawn out full year, right? Where we had NFT runs, and then we had, it went through all of its categories of, layer ones and meme coins and all that kind of stuff. But NFTs had their run. I don't know if we're going to have the same engagement and enough time for NFTs to make a comeback. I wonder, so what if, this is kind of what I've been thinking of, what if, right, 2017 was one top, short, end of the cycle, lasted a couple months, done, right? Quick and violent. 2021 was a little more drawn out, right? Because you had rate cuts in 2020, and so 2020 was bullish. Some coins, went up in 2020, but then we had the COVID crash, V-shaped recovery. 2021 rate cuts were at zero, or rates were at zero. Quantitative easing had started because of COVID, and so all of 2021 there was a lot of liquidity in the markets. And I wonder if we're going to see a 2017 scenario this time, right, where it's quick, violent, end of the year, but next cycle, where rates should be way lower, more liquidity should be in the market, right? And this is where I think that maybe the whole Jerome Powell thing and all of those narratives come in play for next cycle, right? So it would be 2027 and 2028 would be big years, and then 2029 would, in theory, be the blow-off top. But I wonder if that's all going to play out in the next cycle and not this cycle. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because it would play out similarly to, what if we fall into a recession in 2026, right? The government shutdown right now, the real numbers aren't coming out. What if they're worse than we expected? And when they open back up, we fall into a recession in 2026, and then obviously we've got some bullish catalyst, right? Rates are going to drop drastically at that point. We're going to get a new Fed chair who's going to be handpicked by Trump, bullish on crypto. And I wonder, part of me thinks that narrative comes next cycle, right? Where then, after the recession, potentially in 2026, we, the end of 2026, we start getting super bullish, and we have kind of a more drawn out bull cycle like we did in 2020 and 2021. That's just something I've been thinking about. I don't know if it's going to play out that way or not. And that would, dismiss the extended cycle, which, I'm open to the idea, but everybody says that every cycle and it never happens. So it makes me think, are we going to get enough good news to blow off top this year, right? And then next year we go into recession, interest rates start collapsing, and that's what sets us up for a good bull cycle in the next cycle. Something to think about. I could be completely off and wrong about that, but it's something I've been thinking about. Or maybe this cycle really is different, and we do extend into next year, and we do, we don't get our blow off top until mid next year. I don't know. But I have a suspicion that it's going to play out like I just mentioned, where all those bullish catalysts are going to be next cycle's bullish catalysts. And then they're going to cut rates too much, and then the end of next cycle is going to be because they're going to have to start increasing interest rates again. Because, they were too loose for a while, for a few years. Just something to think about anyway. Birdie, what else do you hold outside of KASPA? I'll give you a few things. I hold about 10 or 11 coins. I recommend people don't hold much more than that unless you've got a ton of money. But I'll go down the list here just real quickly. KASPA's my number 1 holding, and then Solana is my actual number 2 holding. The reason for that is because I bought a lot of Solana down at between $8 and $20 last bear market when everyone said it was dead. And it's risen, obviously, now to my second biggest holding because of how well it's done. Sui's number 3. Sui is what I would want my second biggest holding to be this cycle. Because we all know what can happen with VC-backed coins, but we also know the upside that VC-backed coins can have. You just got to know, right, to sell when you need to sell, because they're going to dump on you after, a blow off top. But Sui, I think, is going to have similar gains to what Solana did last cycle because there's a lot of the same investors in that project. And it's already done well. I bought most of my Sui at 40 cents in the bear market because I had my eye on that project before it was even launched. And it's now sitting at $2.50. So I've done very well with that as well. I wish I would have bought more, though, because I think that's going to have a very good run this cycle. Bitcoin's number 4, and I'm going to sell most of my Bitcoin, actually, around 130K probably, maybe 140 if we get there, and then move it into some lower cap altcoins to try and make some more X's, because Bitcoin's going to be pretty much done at that point. And then I'm going to buy a bunch more Bitcoin in the bear market. And then Pepe is my number 1 meme coin. I think that's going to do Shiba Inu type stuff from last cycle. If you guys were here, that was the top meme coin, and it did a ton of X's. And then Peak, P-E-A-Q, is a layer 1 that's doing RWA stuff, and it hasn't really ran yet, and so I think that has some pretty big room to run. And then Zeus is another one that I like. It's what is it? It's called Zeus Network, and it's basically bringing Bitcoin liquidity over to Solana. And when you mix Bitcoin and Solana, I feel like you can't miss. Anatoly, the founder of Solana, is invested into that project, as well as some major VC investors as well. And obviously, every single one of those projects that I just mentioned, I'm going to sell out of 100% at the end of this cycle, except for KASPA. But those are just a few other projects that I have in my portfolio. I do have some very small percentages of some other stuff too. Like Nacho, if you want to go KASPA coins, Nacho and Goad. Goad has been doing awful lately. But I didn't pay a whole lot for it, so I'm just going to let it ride out. See what it does when and if we ever get this parabolic altcoin run. Although Nacho hasn't been doing well either, so it's not a knock on Goad. It's just the KRC20s have been quite dormant over the last number of months. Enoch bought a horse and named it Hoof-Hearted. Hoof-Hearted. I'm assuming that's a joke and you didn't actually buy a horse. Yeah, I think that there's a good chance that the top comes even before he's gone. But it's just the good news leading into that gives us our top for this cycle. And then next cycle, right, I think that there's a chance that we go into it'll probably be a quick, and maybe they don't even announce it as a recession, right? Just like the last administration. I think we were in a recession at one point. A lot of indicators pointed there, but they just didn't, they started changing the metrics so that they didn't have to call it a recession. But I think we get something like that next year, which is what puts us into the bear market, right? And it's usually, like if we top in November of 2025, then it's like November of 2026 would be Bitcoin's bottom, roughly. It's usually around a year, 12 months after the top when Bitcoin bottoms, right? So as of, if this all works out and the way I'm thinking it might, then, by November of next year, you're starting Bitcoin on an uptrend again, right? Interest rates are going to be at zero. Everything, the Fed chair is going to be favorable. Everything's going to be, super bullish then. And I think we have maybe kind of more of an extended, or what seems like a more fun, longer drawn out cycle next time around. This is just me guessing, obviously. Yeah, Peak has had a nice turnaround. It has. Peak, even before that flash crash, was doing pretty well. I think it wants to run. It's one of my favorite L1s right now going into this cycle because it has not ran yet. It is not, I think it went up to like 60 cents, but it launched at something that wasn't all that much lower than that. And then it's just come down since, and it's forming a bottom. But I think it has a lot of room to run based on the fact that it hasn't really had any run at all yet. Do you think Binance will list in early December? This is vital. That could be the difference between $30 and $1. No, I agree. I can't imagine they want to hold the bag, into the bear market. So, yeah, my take on the whole entire Binance or exchanges in general listing, right? They're businesses. They have to buy on the open market. Of course, they might be getting some sort of a discount buying from other exchanges, OTC behind the scenes. I don't know exactly what the price they're getting offered and the price that they're buying at. But nonetheless, in order for them to make money, they need the price to be higher than it is right now, right? Because they have to buy it, right? So it's just like any other business. You need to sell your product at a profit. Not even and not at a loss. And so when the market finally turns around, and Binance, I would imagine, knows exactly when the market is going to turn around, or at least has an idea, because Well, I mean, even CZ is shaking hands and exchanging money with Donald Trump right now, right? And I guarantee you Donald Trump has an idea of when this market is going to turn around and like actually go up convincingly for our blow off top. Binance knows. They're in the know. We are not in the know. And when price starts to move, when they know, right, that things are going to be moving up for good until the bear market, then that is the time that they're going to list KASPA. Because otherwise it doesn't do them any good to buy a product at 5 cents or 6 cents and sell it at 3 or 4 cents or even 5 or 6 cents, right? Because you're breaking even at that point. So it's a business. They need to run their exchange like a business. I still think they're going to list it. They just need to wait based on the fact that they had to buy their coins on the open market, where many other projects don't, right? They give Binance money, and they give Binance a percentage of the supply so that they can list. They can list it right away because they're already in profit because they got free tokens to list. It's not the case with KASPA. That's why it's taking so long, and that's why people are getting angry. But you got to look at it from a business perspective, and then it will all make sense to you. And if wallet number 2 or 4 or 1 now, or if any of those wallets that aren't marked in the top 10 are Binance, you're right. They're not going to want to hold it through the bear market, okay? They're buying right now for a reason because they know price action is going to moon at some point in the near future. They're setting themselves up. They're going to list at the right time where it makes them the most money when price is going parabolic. Everybody's going to want to buy KASPA on Binance when the price is 14 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, 60 cents, right? And that is a huge margin for them, along with trading fees. Buying it at 5 cents and selling it at 6 cents is not a huge margin for them. They don't want that. So just remember, when you get frustrated about it, think of it as a business perspective because it's a business for them. KASPA is the best performing alt in a bear market. It actually does better when Bitcoin's run is over. Well, we have one data point to look at for that, right? It was its first cycle. It had a super low market cap, easy to move up and down. And it did. It had a very good run. Best performing altcoin, best performing asset in crypto during last bear market. But next bear market is not last bear market. KASPA is going to have a much higher market cap. It's not going to be the new shiny toy anymore. It's going to be its second cycle. It's going to have to prove itself. It's going to have to get battle scars. And my thought process is it's going to act like a normal altcoin next bear cycle. Right? It could, it would shock me, to be honest with you, if it outperformed again in a second bear cycle. You got to look at Chainlink, did the same thing in 2019. Chainlink, best performing asset in the crypto space in the bear market. 2022, it followed the rest of the altcoins. Down, 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 down. 90 some percent. So, first cycle coins are typically the ones that run the most because they start from a very low market cap. No one knows about them. And it's easy to move the price action when the market cap is super low. So if I were a betting man, I would say that KASPA is not going to outperform this next bear cycle. Unless, there's one caveat there. If for some god-awful reason we go through alt season, every coin is doing 10 to 100x, and KASPA doesn't move, then part of me would throw up red flags. Part of me would say, well, maybe it's going to perform in the bear market again. But I don't think that's going to happen, both of those scenarios. But that's the only way I could see it really outperforming and having its bull cycle in the next bear market is if it doesn't perform with the rest of altcoins during alt season. But I think that that's almost a 0% chance. Peaky, are you were talking positive about Sui? What's your opinion on Say? I think it could have a good run just because the name is so similar to Sui. I think Say will probably do well this cycle. I don't own it because I don't want to oversaturate myself with layer ones. I like to pick out a few that I like the best and convincingly put a good amount of money into each of those, right? Because the more money you put into a coin, the bigger your end goal is after the X's are done, right? If you're putting $5 into 100 L1s, then $5, even if you 100X it, you're not making that much money, right? So I like to go a little bit heavier into fewer projects. And then I sprinkle in a few like super low cap meme coins and stuff down at the bottom just as a speculative type thing. But Sui is my third biggest holding right now. I wish it was number 2. It will be eventually. I think it's going to outperform Solana because Solana's got a bigger market cap, and it'll eventually get to number 2. It may even, no, I still think KASPA is going to end as my top holding. It'd be interesting to see, actually. If anything outperforms KASPA to the extent that it takes it over in my portfolio would be interesting. But yeah, to answer your question, I do think Say is a good investable coin. I just don't own any of it. Are you holding Ondo? I am not. I think Ondo is a good coin to invest in as well, by the way, because if you're following the money, then Ondo should have a good cycle. The problem is I just don't want to oversaturate myself. I have certain projects that I like, KASPA and Sui being the top 2 that I like this cycle, and I'm heavier into those. Any extra money I get really right now typically goes into KASPA and Sui because my biggest convictions are those 2 projects this cycle. KASPA being, ground roots, best tech in crypto, and Sui being same VC backers and investors as Solana last cycle. And so I think, VCs do not want to lose money, so they're going to pump the hell out of that coin. Let's just put it that way. You just have to know when to get out before you get dumped on, that's all. And know what you're investing in. And know that you are going to get dumped on at some point. And try and be ahead of the curve. John agrees with me. Yeah, it's an I haven't heard anybody say that yet. So maybe I'm a pioneer for that sequence of events playing out. Yeah, it's not going to help us this cycle, but I think what's going to happen is, unless the cycle gets extended, what's going to happen is we hopefully get enough good news and another couple rate cuts, and just the news cycle of Jerome Powell getting out of office will propel the markets up. But remember that even that good news stuff isn't necessarily what propels it up. Everybody wants to put a narrative onto it. It's the market makers. When they're ready to go, we're going to go. It's as simple as that. Like, you can try and decipher everything you want, but it's the market makers that are going to tell us when go time is and when stop time is. And we just have to wait around until that happens. All right, guys. It's been an hour and a half. I got to get going. I know there's more questions here. I apologize I can't get through them all. But I only have so much time in a day. I got to go eat dinner. So I appreciate everybody for being here. Again, make sure you pay your bar tabs before you leave the bar. Like the video and hit the subscribe button to enter into a chance to win 10,000 KASPA when we get to 10,000 subscribers. And in the meantime, guys, continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late. See you in the